welcome back to my channel. This is Marty. Today we're taking a look at a build that I made for leveling while I'm leveling. But if you like ARPGs like this game and build guides, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And without further ado, let's crack on. I know I'm still leveling, so I'm not really that far yet, but we're working on that. And we can always make more improvements. So this is I call it the purple warrior, right? We have a lot of movement speed, and we're using Aether damage to do our damage, occult damage, and all kind of damage buffs that we can get to make this build shine, right? As you can see, everything just explodes. We are using Plague Burst to make them explode, and to make the clouds, as you can see, that sticks behind and do some area damage to the enemies. We're using a Liver Mortis as a defensive mechanism for tanking. And make sure to keep up the Plague Burst at all times. And we will dive into the skills just in a moment. We're using Wrath of Bapeth to regain some willpower, as you can see right here. So we can then divide or control our resources back and forth like this. The anomaly is a AoE kind of mechanic that also pulls in the enemies and locks them in place, so you have some kind of CC, crowd control over your enemies. We use Annihilation once they are trapped inside to burn them down. So that's the idea about this build. And I can see already now that it can do quite a lot of damage. This is a level 64, I know it's pretty low considering the end game, but it's still a bit higher than our level ourselves. So that means the skills still have a whole lot of way scaling up when you're leveling. But let's head back into town and take a look at the skills. Alright, here we are back in town. Let's take a look at the skills for a moment. Annihilation is the hardest hitting skill that we have here in our arsenal. Hitting right now with a 2800 average damage. Let's take a look at this. I spent points into extra skill, weapon skill damage, and willpower cost reduction. Some multiplier here that when you hold down the skill, or the longer you cast the skill, the more damage that you will do. And that's also why that I chose the willpower cost reduction here. And also you get a buff when you use the skill. You can see here that we get the buff right here as adds up additional damage. It is dealt by Aether damage, right? Now also extra skill weapon damage here and skill weapon damage right here, just to buff up the damage as much as possible. Now I still need to level up some more and get some extra points, but then you can add more to this. The next one, anomaly, we are using increased effect and extra damage. Also you get an extra movement speed buff when you go through the anomaly area of effect. Increase the critical damage dealt. Ailment chance multiplier, because we want to be able to apply stasis as often as possible, and I will show you this in the skill tree later on, but it's important that we can apply stasis to the enemies. Now also we have this node that allows us to keep up to two vortexes at the same time, and some extra damage right here. Let me apologize for my voice. I've just been sick this weekend and my microphone is not as great either. But let's carry on. VOB here, let's take it out. Increased attack speed, critical chance, score, extra damage, and when we use the skill we get a life leech buff so that we can keep our health up while damaging, and some extra damage here also. Simple stuff, but it works. Extra health on the liver mortis here, extra movement speed, and some damage absorption, so he takes some of the damage from us, and some extra threats. And when the skill is used again, he will apply frenzy to enemies, so that frenzied enemies will attack each other, and some extra health. That is what I'm using right now for my skills. Of course, it's important to talk about some gear as well here. As you can see, right now we're using a one-handed mace and we're using a catalyst as an offhand. And I'm adding ether damage to everything I can, to spells, to attacks, to everything. You can keep it in the region of the occult, so you could do sacred, shadow or ether damage. It will get applied to your attacks. But mostly we are using our spells to do damage to the enemies, so please add a damage to spells in the region of the occult. Now, get a weapon with as much damage, base damage as you can, and roll for the sockets and add in the ether damage. And you can see in general I have ether damage, gems in, and I have occult damage on all of my gear. You can see I have extra damage here. Instead I have 13% overall damage on the chest, and I have spell damage, ether damage, and ether damage added to spells here. Everything adds damage, ether damage, critical damage, and if you can get some rage and willpower cost reduction, that's also good, because then we can keep up our annihilation for a longer time period. And yeah, make sure you get loads of cold damage just to buff up all your damage as much as possible, and add damage to spells. Do not worry about attack speed, it's not really that useful. And I have some skill cooldown reduction as well, which is nice, because if you can get at least 10% skill cooldown reduction, then you're able to keep up the plague burst while it cools off here. You can see I still have it on, and now it's ready to be used again, and it wears off and I can use it again. So basically I can keep it up at all times, which is fantastic. Oh, and keep get some boots with some really high movement speed, because it's really nice when you're leveling. And yeah, I also have movement speed on my helmet. If you can get a rogue helmet, you can get movement speed fairly easy on the helmet also. Yeah, I think that's it to be said about the gear at the moment. So let's carry on. As I mentioned earlier, it's a pretty good build if you're leveling up, and let me just show you the skill tree here. The reason is that you have a lot of CC with the anomaly. Once you get the skills, you can actually use this build. You can start with working your way up here, picking up these nodes, picking up the cost reduction and life leech here from spell damage, which will help keep you alive also, while you move up and you take some of the nodes up here that will grant you some extra damage, right? Now, sorry, the attacks here will gain extra damage when you're using spells, which will buff up the VOB spell that we're using, and that spell will also give us life leech, right? So, and then it will grant you some extra occult damage when choosing this node. So that's why I've gone this way up. Now picking up the occult damage here as well, moving up, picking up the ether damage all the way up here to this node. Sorry. Where you inflict extra damage to enemies affected by stasis, and you will apply stasis with most of our skills, because we have chosen, you can see right here. We have chosen the anomaly or the Aether damage version of the skill here. You have to remember to choose that also. Now let's head back in here, if I can hit the right buttons. Picking up some more Aether damage here, moving up, grabbing the captured velocity, which will grant you attack speed. That's why you don't really need attack speed on your gear, because you get it right here. And once this paradox points have been built up, you will have a really high attack speed, and then you will be able to cast your annihilation really fast and get it to max damage really fast, and which is working out pretty good. So then we're picking up some extra critical damage here and critical chance, and then moving our way down here, picking up the Immortal Offering that will give us extra damage for each damage type of effect that you're doing with your ailments, and this can be ailment types from your spells and from your attacks as well. Now extra stacks on elements is always good, and an extra element stack here applied also. We want to be able to apply as many ailments as possible when we're using Immortal Offering as well. So that's why I also chose this node, and some extra ailment chance and ailment damage. So my goal is now next to move down here and to pick up the Salvatory Anchor and use a heavy chest plate, because the it will add a lot of extra to all your resistances and help you when you're leveling up, and when you reach higher levels it will be really handy. And as this build develops, I will update any changes in the tree here for you guys. So let's head back into a dungeon. I just want to show you guys a few tricks. So just to recap, guys, keep up Plague Burst at all times, keep up your Golem at all times, and just you could go back and forth with the Annihilation, Wrath, and Anomaly, Wrath. That way you will have balance in your spending of your resources. It's really an easy build and a fun build, and there could be many tweaks done to it as well. Shrine of Greed, oh, let's try this out. Okay. So as you can see, we were able to do quite a bit of damage here. Don't really have any troubles doing this. Yeah, fun build. Good times. So you can try it out. If you're new to Wolcen, if you're leveling up, it's quite a fun build to test out. And also it's a little bit different from other builds out there, I think. But good luck with Wolcen, guys, and I just want to say as well that I'm really looking forward to the new stuff coming out soon. And especially the summoners and the changes that are coming for that. That's pretty exciting, and it can come out anytime now, so take a look at when the patches come out for the game. And I will keep updating you guys with new stuff, new builds, and everything that I can, everything that I have time for. I have time to do videos Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays as of right now. So I'll just keep progressing and keep you guys updated. And with that said, have fun, guys. I'll just see you later.